Hello, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us this morning for Building from Ground Up, program by Tekabal, built in partnership with the UK Nigeria Tech Hub. Thank you for joining us this morning, and we're looking forward to having a really exciting conversation about how Paystack built from ground up. Welcome, people of the audience. My name is Tomiwa Aladekomo. I'm the CEO for Big Cabal Media. We publish Tech Cabal, which is your host for today. Tech Cabal aims to cover the business and the impact of technology across the continent. We try to do this vividly through conversations with the people who are actually doing the work, like this, or through our writing, through our reports, by putting out data that kind of captures what is happening. Today's event is called Building from Ground Up, and it's part of a series where we interview founders and CEOs who are building some of the great technology companies and businesses of our time about what their experiences have been and how they've done it, what the lessons are that other people who are in the journey might take. This program is put together in partnership with the UK Tech Hub, the UK Nigeria Tech Hub. And we're going to have Hani Ogudei, who runs that program, introduce the UK Nigeria Tech Hub in a moment and just talk a little bit about the work that they do. I will, just for housekeeping, note we have this happening today on Zoom, as well as being live streamed on YouTube. So if there's anyone who is trying to watch it and hasn't been able to reach it, we'll put a link in the chat for you to share with them so that they can watch the YouTube live stream if they can't access the Zoom. So welcome, Hani. How are you?
Perfect. Hi, can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. How are you? Good morning. Good morning, Shola. Good morning, Bakale.
Good morning. Yeah.
Tell me, how are you? Great. I'm not going to get in the way of this exciting conversation that we're really excited to have. Shola, it's good to see you. It's been a minute. But congratulations again, and really looking forward to this exciting conversation. I think I was probably one of the earlier Paystack merchants, so really good to see it all come around full circle in this way. So I just wanted to spend a few seconds talking about the UK Nigeria Tech Hub. Obviously, we're an initiative by the UK government, and we're really excited to be powering this session. Our work is really focused on supporting the growth of the technology ecosystem in Nigeria. And when I started thinking around this program, the first thing that we wanted to do was create a platform where entrepreneurs can really come and share a no-holds-barred opinion of what it's like to really be building a company, right? Oftentimes you hear of the early days of the company, then you see the tech crunch releases, you see the YC flashes, and in between that, you and I know that there's a lot more work, a lot more sweat, a lot more nights, and on all of that story that often we don't get to share in this ecosystem. And I think it's really important that we create this platform where people can really come, and hopefully, Shola, you will share with us a lot of the warts and barred stories of what it's really like to build it. And hopefully that will inspire a new generation of startups and really inspire people to just do what we often say is just start. My favorite quote around entrepreneurship is that ideas don't come fully formed. And I think that people have to just, stories like this, success stories like yours, really embolden us to be able to start and really build. So the UK Nigeria Tech Hub is continuing to run programs like this. We're really excited about supporting partnerships between the UK tech sector and Nigerian tech sector. And I just encourage everyone to sort of follow us on our social media channels and keep in touch with, either myself personally or the hub. But we're super excited, and I'll let the conversation get started. Congratulations again, Shola, from all of us at the UK Nigeria Tech Hub, and myself will be back in touch. Thank you, Tamiwa.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. All right, so let's get into this. So for those who don't know, Shola Akinlade is the co-founder and CEO of Paystack. Paystack is a Nigerian payment processing company, and they're built with a very specific focus, which is to solve the payments problem in Africa and to, I think the phrase you use is to increase the size of the digital economy. Is that correct? Is that the way you guys?
Part of it.
Yeah, part of it. In a second, I'm going to give you a chance to to talk a little bit more about it, And Paystack, I'm sure the reason that there's been so much excitement about this is sort of one of the most important recent exits, being acquired by Stripe for $200 million. Very exciting, especially because another aspect of what Paystack has always said it was going to do was build the Stripe for Africa. So to be acquired by Stripe is, fulfillment of what feels like prophecy. But there's a phrase that I love, which is the messy middle. And it's the messy middle between when you announce that, we're going to Y Combinator and we have raised X million dollars and get into this exit. And there's a lot that goes in actually even before that happens, even before that Y Combinator, and a lot that happens in between that, first funding announcement and the exit. So looking forward to talking to you about all of that and getting, sort of your thoughts on the process. So I think before we jump into it, I'd love for you to tell us how you think about what Paystack is, what the vision is from your perspective, what it is that you set out to accomplish with Paystack.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shola Akinlade, co-founder and CEO of Paystack. So I think before I start, just wanted to say that I felt somehow when we made the announcement and my face and Ezra's face was like everywhere. And we were like, yo, actually, I didn't necessarily build Paystack, Paystack was built by the community. Paystack was built by the ecosystem, from early days, even I don't read out by Tech Cabal. I'm sure a few people from those days are here. It's been like a lot of, maybe that's why we call it Paystack. There's just a lot of things that have happened, and but I'm glad to be here. So a little about me and what we're trying to do, or what we wanted and what we're still trying to do with Paystack. I think that will be good. I can just start with a very short background, so the story can get in.
Okay. I was going to come to the background, but
yes, it will be good to give context.
I want to dig into the jump from the banking industry into Paystack. So we're going to talk about all of that, but I did want just kind of for those who don't know what Paystack is,
who don't have
what Paystack is, a bit of an understanding of that.
Cool. So Paystack is a payments company. We help merchants accept payments from their customers. Today, we're live in Nigeria, Ghana, piloting in South Africa. We provide all the tools and services that you need. So just connect to Paystack and we'll figure out how to help you accept payments. And our mission is to figure out how to accelerate payments and commerce in the continent. I think we're trying. We still have a long way to go, but I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 4 or 5 years.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's get into the background. Let's talk about how you came to to form Paystack. I know you went to Babcock. I know you did. You worked at Heineken. You had worked in the banking industry. So how did that all come together?
Yeah. No, interesting. I think, to be honest, I don't know, but but let me tell you the part I remember. I think I guess, like you said, went to Babcock. I met Ezra. Both of us were classmates, and we started writing software from school. After school, I worked with Heineken, like you said. After that, I built a software with my partner, then Mayowa. We built something called Picurio. It was an open source version of Dropbox. We really just wanted to build stuff, so we just built it. We made it open source. We had people use it, and it was working well. I did that for about 5 years, and then after that, I started building software for a few banks in Nigeria, and we're like, you know what? Actually, maybe there's an opportunity to build a payments company like Stripe. I think the core of it was when I figured I could charge a card from my computer, and I was like, wow, this is interesting, and people reached out. I showed a few people, oh, wow, actually, this can be a company, and we built, started Paystack, got into Y Combinator, became the first Nigerian company to get into YC, which is really amazing because there are probably over 20 Nigerian companies in YC now. I had to launch the company. So we started the company, and I think it has grown significantly since then. Like I said, our work is to figure out how to accelerate digital payments in the country or in the continent. I think we've made a lot of progress. I remember when we were going into YC and when I got to Silicon Valley, and people were like, "Oh, how big is the market? It feels very small." And we were saying, "Okay, this is what Nigeria was doing in payments." And fast forward 5 years later, Paystack is doing more than 5 times what Nigeria was doing on the web before we launched. So I think it's been amazing. The team also has scaled significantly. We have about 120 people on the team. So it's been a very good ride. I don't know if that's like a good summary.
I think it's a great summary. So I think let's talk right about that beginning. So kind of identifying the problem. So for you, at what point did you feel like, this is a big enough problem that I'm going to build a company around it? This is a big enough problem, and I'm the person to fix it. Because how many people had seen that you could charge a card from their computer, and why didn't any of them build Paystack?
Yes. I think there were multiple parts to it. I think the first part, which I talked about in the video we shared, was when just gingered me. I was like, "Yo, guy, this is a company, we have to do it." So that part came. I'm like, "Okay, maybe it's a company." And then
this is prior to his sending that legendary email to.
Yes. This was like late 2014, actually.
Okay.
And then early 2015, I started talking to people. So one of the first people I spoke with was Kunle Jinodo. He was building Gingerbox then. I think he's building Millimeter now. And so we talked about it. And he had a product which they were doing fruit deliveries. They would deliver fruit to like offices, and people will pay like daily or weekly. And there was no way to accept payments that way. So I was like, okay, actually, like solving a problem that nobody's solving. So both of us, I worked with him very closely, and we figured that out. And at that point, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then there was a company called Jekalo. They were like a ride hailing. I don't know if a few people remember them, and so the founder reached out to me too and said, "Oh, he's heard about Paystack." And I'm like, okay, you know what? You can use Paystack, but I can't give you your money. Like, I haven't built the settlements layer. I can only collect money. I can't pass it to you. And it was like, yeah, it's fine. Keep my money. I just want this to work. I just need to collect payments. I'm like, okay, there's progress there. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to register a company, and I spoke to like Ojo from Longer Practice then, exactly. And they're like, oh, actually, we're trying to build something called DIY law, and we need Paystack, I'm like, okay. So like everybody I was talking to we're talking about different things, but it kept coming back to, oh wow, we need Paystack. So at that point, I'm like, okay, you know what? This might be big. So I just put up like a wait list, put up a landing page, and if you want Paystack, you can have it. And I started speaking to more people, Yomi from Printivo, Supermat.ng, and Fashpa. Only I thought I would forget. No. So it was
for those who don't know, Oni was the CEO of Fashpa, which sold clothing and fashion on the internet. One of the big an early e-commerce player. But yeah.
So it was just like a lot of conversations in 2015 that just made it very clear that this thing might work. And so, of course, we started building it. And then the second phase of, but at that point,
building it. And do you have a day job at this point, or is this?
No. I was doing it. Remember, I was building. I was like a consultant, like software. I don't want to say freelancer because
why the hate for the freelancers?
No. I wasn't saying from I was saying from a good place. Like, okay. I was building just like one. I was building like one or two. I had 1 or 2 projects I was working on, but it wasn't. So I think when I say building it, I spent probably about 1 year like just building it, just doing the different parts that needed to be done. And then the second part of when I knew that, but even when I was speaking to like Fashpa, Printivo, to be honest, I was just like, okay, you know what, this is something that people want, and I'm just trying to build. And then we got into YC, or we got invited to YC. So Ezra and I went to San Francisco. And I've told this story multiple times. And we applied for YC. When we went to San Francisco, to be honest.
You asked that story. So we have to pause. We have to give a shout out to Oo Nwoye. Oo is a big booster. He supports a lot of entrepreneurs and founders. And he had this insane night when he and Shola were talking, and for some reason, he emails Michael Seibel, who is president of Y Combinator, out of the blue, and says, these guys are building the Stripe for Africa. You should have them at YC. And I think you guys were already late for the application. And Michael said, apply anyway, just apply. But I think that's a great story. I think that's a really important story about people who support you, people who push you forward, people who create opportunities. Because, I mean, I think Paystack was an important service at the right time, but I wonder if it's the same company today without that early opportunity.
And that's why I said, like, it's just been multiple people doing things, like having conversations, advocating for us in rooms like we didn't have access to, you know. But just to continue the YC story, so I can land that. So we got invited and we were like, okay, you know what, come for an interview. So Ezra and I, we went to San Francisco. In fact, I remember how that story, because Paystack, to show how small Paystack was, when we were getting on the KLM flight, and Giga Leia Ahmad, he was trying to integrate Paystack or something. So I just did something, like I pushed the code. I didn't know there was a bug there. We got on the flights. And then by the time we landed, of course, Paystack wasn't working again. but it was fine. We just fixed it very quickly. And then YC invites like maybe about 500 companies. They had to pick up about 100. And so when we got there, of course, we were intimidated. Like everybody was building things, and people were asking us, when we ask people, oh, what are you guys building? They're like, oh, we're building a bra that detects breast cancer. You just like download the app where it like notifies you. Or people will say, oh, we're building a shirt that never gets dirty, you know. And they would ask us like, yo, what are you guys building? I was like, oh, we're building payments for Africa. And I was saying that from like a very, I'm sorry, I know you guys have built this thing like 8 years ago in America, but I'm sorry, I just we're building something, you know. But like people were like super excited to hear that. I'm like, oh wow, how many people are in Africa? And we're like, maybe like 1 billion people. Like, whoa, that's a lot. That's big, you know. Like if you guys figure this thing out, like it's going to be massive, you know. And I think that was the moment where I started figuring out, like, actually, this is not just like something I'm just messing around with or playing with. Like this can be massive. This can like improve opportunities for like the entire continent if we figure it out, you know. So I think that worked out. We got into YC, and at that point, of course, they gave us money. They gave us 120K. So at that point, we didn't have a choice again. We had to start the company. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let me ask you a question. Was that the first money you took in, or had you taken in money prior to that?
No, that was the first like the money I took in.
Okay. And so in that round, and I'm asking this because this is some of the stuff people want to understand, is sort of like at least asking, where did so at your exit, a number of people celebrated quite loudly on and did prayers on Twitter and everywhere else. And it's an important exit for the ecosystem because a lot of people locally made money. A lot of people locally had the chance to participate. So at what point did those people come in? You know,
it was so actually maybe I can use Olumide as an example, because again, I think there's a story everywhere. So what happened was, again, just tied to the story, Push CV, Piggyvest now actually, which is very interesting. The founders were working on Push CV then. And this was before I got into YC. They reached out to me that they wanted to use Paystack for Push CV. And we started talking. I don't know the conversation they had with Olumide, but Olumide and I, like, I'd known him, like we had worked together earlier. And I don't know the conversation they had with him, but he just called me. It was just like, oh, wow. Like, I just spoke to Somto from Push CV, and he said that there's this thing he just tried out and it was so nice. Like, can he invest? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm already like, I just got into YC. So it's fine. And so those conversations happened. And then, of course, he invested very quickly. So I think we got into YC very early. Like when we got into YC, we were doing about $250 monthly. So it was that small. It was that small. So but the conversations, there were conversations that I had been like having with a few people. And so when we got into YC, we had to create, like we hadn't even created the company. So there was no company registration for anybody to invest in. So yeah, so it was after YC that we registered the company and then started getting investors.
Let me ask a question that is, where you registered, or where did you register? Did you register in the US?
Yes, Delaware and then Nigeria.
And then Nigeria. Okay,
yeah.
All right. So talk to me about that first year. So building, what were the key tasks? What was it that you felt like you had to accomplish? You've just come out of YC, you've got some cash in the bank. What was job number one, mission number one?
I think mission number one, and I think there were three things we wanted to do. But the first one was to just make it easier for people to get started, because just being in Nigeria, just growing up, just like writing software, trying to integrate payments, like I had always felt the pain myself, like, why is this so difficult? I'm sure a lot of us can relate in other industries how you're just like, why is this so difficult? And so I think job number one for me was like, why is this so difficult to just like integrate payments? And we wanted to understand why, like, why do you have to pay? Why do you have to why is the documentation like a PDF form and not something online? So we just initially just wanted to solve that, like, what were the things we had to do to make it easy for anyone to get started? So that was the first bucket of work we did. And I think we did a good job. We also got very good people. So Okwe Father Mary was one of the very early people where I just like, there's a design problem to be solved somewhere, just help me figure it out, that big, and so we started like building and just like solving, like even the UX problem, like then it was so difficult where when I went to my YC interview, one of the things they asked us was like, show us, like, so we showed them a site that they have Paystack. We had to go like 7 steps to just like make the payment. And they were like, okay, show us Paystack. And then we showed them Push CD, I think. And it was just like, oh, wow. So the difference was clear, So I think the first problem was just getting started. But very quickly, we realized that there's also a bigger problem into just getting paid. Yes, you have been integrated, but people are struggling to pay you. It's not working. The refunds are not going through. People want to pay across multiple channels, So that became the second problem we had to solve, which is just like, if there's someone trying to pay a merchant, can we make that payment work? And so that was the second problem. And then the third problem, which I think we're now spending a lot of time, is like, how do you help people grow their businesses? What happens after the payment is done? How can you help people scale their businesses? Now that the payment has happened, like, what are all the new problems that will happen? So that's how we think about it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let me ask about design and UX thing. I think it's been a real differentiator in terms of what Paystack is, how its products work, even your product launches. I mean, I think everybody knows that Paystack really, really cares about UX, really, really cares about design. It's one of your core differentiators. Where did that come from?
I wish I could take credit for that. I think the team at Paystack, and one of the things we value is just insisting on high standards. I think for a lot of us at Paystack, even for me personally, I think Paystack is an opportunity to like make and create what I want to do. And for everybody at Paystack, regardless of their role at Paystack, everyone sees their role as like a creative. Like, we just want to like create stuff. We just want to build a future that we want to exist, And so that has translated into different parts. So if you think about the UI, like, how do I want to pay? Like, how would I have wanted to pay? Just build that, and that is it. And so like, even like on the marketing side, like, what is the relationship I want to have with my payments company? Like, how can the payment company pass the message? How can we tell the story? What is the best way to tell the story? And thankfully, the team, we just had multiple people, and different phases of this. So like I said, there was that first phase where it was just about UI, and someone needed to just give us like a world-class experience. And that thing used to, I don't know if a president this call, but he used to be very upset because there's a world where when people say world-class, it's as if they are excluding Nigeria. Like it's world-class. I'm like, no, why? Nigeria is part of the world. So world-class is world-class. There's no, So, and I think for us, it was really like world-class. Like, we're not like second fiddle, you know. And it was actually funny because
that everybody is performing to globally.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yes.
use that standard.
Exactly. In fact, we will be better. You know, like when
right.
I was making math when I went to Stripe. First time I went to Stripe's office, and I was showing them the Paystack dashboard. Thank God they didn't chase me out. But I was like, "Yo, guys, this dashboard is better than the Stripe dashboard." You know, I was making math, but it's true because, like, if you think about it, I don't know when they built theirs, but especially that time we built in 2016, so it had to be like better, you know. So I think the first part of and that first phase of just like thinking through everything from first principles. And then there was a storytelling phase also that came with Emmanuel Kwate, you know, where we had also spent a lot of time. Like I like to say, I just want to build products, you know, I just wanted to focus on the products, which was very important for me because one of the early problems and one of the pressures I had when I was starting Paystack, and this is very counterintuitive, but a lot of people were telling me to just focus on distribution, like just have this out there, let more people use it. And I'm just like, guys, just chill, please. Like, I just want to make this work. Like, I just want to focus on getting something that works well. And so I spent an unnecessary, but thankfully worked out amount of time just making sure and focusing on the product and my customers, like without trying to have more people use it, because I just knew that I had a wait list, I had a backlog of people that was trying to use Paystack, and I just wanted to satisfy them and make it work for them. But after a while, I walked into the pressure and I realized like actually we should start telling our stories more. And then I met Emmanuel Kwate, is Ghanaian, and I had a good call with him. And I invited him to Lagos and said, you know what, actually, come spend time with us, spend 1 month with us, and tell me how we should be telling our stories. You know, like just tell me, and then we'll figure it out. And then 2 weeks later, or 1 week later, actually, I was like, it's ready. Do I want the presentation now? I'm like, yes, let's do it. So we called everybody, we went into the room, and it gave us like a maybe 300-page presentation. I'm like, yo, we haven't done anything yet, you know. So and so we knew that there was a lot we could do. And of course, it was easy. Chairman, you just have to come and do this because we can't do it ourselves. And so I think that started like the second phase of Paystack's like storytelling, or maybe the first phase of Paystack's storytelling. Again, I skipped the part on the API side because when Ezra came, when we got into YC, one of the first things Ezra also did was like, you know, this API, like, let's start again, let's build it, like, let's make it work. So I guess my point is, for every new person that joins Paystack, it's an opportunity to raise the bar. Like, and we've continued to raise the bar every time to 120 people, and every new person comes in and raises the bar for us again and again and again. Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a quick conversation about a couple of technical things. So you just mentioned the API. So I'm interested in integrating into the Nigerian banks and like how that initial process works, integrating into NID. So you're solving the problem of payments. You know, how easy was it to get those relationships set up, to get all of that integration set up, just on a technical basis, building the initial product? What were the challenges? Yeah,
I think one of the things we did was to also understand, and I think it was helpful for me, was to understand the concept of momentum. Like, I'm not going to wait for anybody, especially if I'm small. Otherwise, I'm just going to wait forever and die. So it was really understanding how, you know what, thankfully, the payments, like there's standards in payments, you know, there are like 20 banks, there are multiple things to do. So it was just more about like, can we like figure out how to make progress without having somebody hold us back? And I think it worked out. Thankfully, a lot of the banks we spoke to were very like happy to collaborate. And so that worked out very well. Another thing that happened was that it wasn't a bank. When you think about a bank, like I'm not looking at the bank. I'm looking at the person in the bank that understands the problem, that sees the solution, that has a pain himself, you know. So I think that also changed the perspective of like what collaboration meant. You know, it's like even when we were talking to Nibs, it wasn't as if I was talking to Nibs. I was talking to the person at Nibs that could like relate to my problem and like help me like move forward, you know. So I think that was very helpful. Some of the initial problems, of course, came from like, you know what, like trust. Like a lot of people have come with ideas. And I can empathize with that. Like if you sit on the other side, like people are coming with ideas every day. If I listen to everybody, I won't do my work, So how are you different? How are you different? So I think figuring out how to like let partners know that I'm ready, I'm serious, and I'm going to move on with or without you was a very good way to make progress, and I think that was very helpful. I would say that. The other challenge again is just like once you get buy-in, it's not enough because now there's work to be done. It's like we agree, okay, tell me let's do this, and you're like, let's do it. Okay, now it's time to do it. Somebody has to leave their job, somebody has to like do it. And a lot of times that can be very stressful. And it's still something we struggle with today, but just getting that muscle of like helping people to help you, figuring out how to help someone help you is something that you just keep getting better at. And once you get very good at that, it's easy,
Okay. So, I mean, what did that look like the first few times you did it? Getting Ezra in, so you've talked to us about how you got EQ in, getting Okwe, like that initial first 10 hires,
Yes.
What did you need to do for them? Or was it just, you came back from YC, you had 120K, so like what was that it?
No, I wish it was that easy. No, I think for me, and I think the good thing, I think we were lucky at Paystack because the problem was a very significant problem and people could relate with the problem. So that was helpful. But what we did was, and we needed help. Like we were like outsiders. We didn't know what to do. I used to tell people like, we have just like average developer. I don't know anything. So it's actually easy to find people to help you when you're not like when you can't help yourself. So I think our first 10 hires were like people where they know that you are trying your best, but your best is not enough. And they're like, okay, this is good because I can just help. I can come in. There's Khadija also. Like she was in the payments industry. I didn't know anything about payments. I'm just like, please, madam, help me. Like I don't know how to like deal with all these things. And after like working with them, after building like a good relationship with them, the conversation of having them join the company becomes very easy because we've tried to solve problems together already. We've dreamt together, like we've seen the future together. We can all do that together. And so when it's time to come together, it's just a very easy, like, please come and work with us, I beg. So I would say like the first 10 hires, it was really just begging people, but figuring out how to work with them first before like bringing them in fully. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about scaling a team. I mean, a really interesting thing, if I look at your organogram is, your growth team is the largest part of the company, which is interesting from a company where the story was so sweet that you didn't even need to sell it. You hire EQ, Emmanuel Corti, who we mentioned earlier, and all of a sudden, like, growth is the largest part of the team. So talk about scaling the team. What have been the challenges in doing that? And how did you end up on the structure that you have right now? And maybe you can talk for the audience a little bit about that structure.
Yeah. How did we end up here? Like there's something we call fluke. Let me start from there. No, but I think in reality, I think we're also like, it's a factor of the people we get and the leaders we have. So I think that's the first part. Today we're structured, we have like 4 teams. We have like business, we have product, we have commercial, we have growth, and then we have engineering, so I think 5 teams actually. And to be honest, it's just a factor of like the leaders we have and the people that can like build and scale teams under them. You mentioned how like the growth team was very large. Funny enough, when Emmanuel came, and that presentation I was talking about, and I was like, how can we sell Paystack more? And actually the answer he gave me wasn't what I was hearing. Like it had nothing to do with marketing. I was hoping he would say, let's just have like Google ads, Facebook, retargeting. Those are the things I was looking for. But it was like, we just have to like focus on like retaining our customers. We need to focus on like customer success. We need to focus. So I think a lot of the things we did and the way the team actually eventually grew. It became like just how do we figure out customer intimacy? Like how do we build a user operations team? How do we like have account managers? How do we have product specialists that can support people? How can we have an editorial team? Today we actually have an editorial team that like is like thinking about what stories to tell. And so it's very interesting because, and like I said in the beginning, I consider Paystack as an opportunity to allow people do their best work, an opportunity to allow people do great work. And because I also consider ourselves lucky, like I consider myself lucky because when 2 years in, we now got to a point where we're like, okay, you know what? We have a company, we have money. Like we don't have like anybody that is like, we don't have vested interests. We don't have like, we're at a good place. Like nobody is going to, if we fail, nobody's going to come and catch me. Nobody's going to sue me, like, so this is actually my opportunity to just like take advantage of this and just find good people, have fun, build great work. Let's do the work that over the next 100 years, like people will enjoy the work. So I think I started getting to that. I recognize my privilege, like 2 years into building Paystack. I'm like, you know what? This is the time to not like, this is not a rat race again. Like, no, stop. Just calm down, build what you want to build. Think about why you wake up every morning. Like, what gives you meaning? Like, why are you here? Why are you taking all these sacrifices? Like, and be more intentional about the company you want to build. And so that awareness, that awakening really helped us shape the team. And so it started getting easier to reject people's offers. It started getting easier to know the kind of people that would join Paystack. And people talk a lot about culture. Oh, how is your head of culture? How do you build culture? I'm like, culture is built at recruitment. You have to, if you bring bad people in and you say you want to build culture after they've come in, you have messed up, So culture is built at recruitment. And a lot of our work at Paystack is being very intentional about the people that come in, because once you have the right people inside, like the rest is easy. Like we've changed things, we've moved things around, we've made mistakes, I have made mistakes, but because we're all trying to do the same thing, like it makes it extremely easy for us to move forward without having like some accuracy. Yeah.
Gotcha. Fascinating. I'm going to start to jump into some of the questions. We still have about 45 minutes, but I'm going to start to jump into some of the questions that people submitted kind of before ahead of this. So one of them is sort of like, how do you drive innovation and new product cycles, particularly during a pandemic, but generally? So as a company, how do you think about innovation, the next product that you're going to release, when it gets released, etc. I think that's critical.
Yeah. It's very funny, but when people talk about innovation, I just laugh because I don't even know what innovation is. I just want to solve a problem, So I think the first part of it is not to focus, which is very counterintuitive, but especially for the problem we're solving. So again, I think some of the responses will be very contextual, but the payments problem is not an innovation problem. Let's be very clear. It is like a real immediate, urgent problem to help people start and scale their businesses. Like there's no innovation there. Just make it work. Like make it work is reliability. Like, can you work 100% of the time? Because think about someone trying to pay you, came to your store to pay you, and oh, I'm sorry, we can't accept your payment today. Go. Like that. There's no innovation that will make that acceptable. So I would say that direct answer is being focused. Like focus on your customers, focus on your mission, focus on your product. Once you have that clarity, it's no longer about like innovation. It's now about just achieving your goals, is achieving why you're here. Like it's solving the problems your customers want you to solve for them. And if you continue to do that, of course, the good thing about it is that more customers will come. More customers will come with their own problems, and you will just continue to like serve them, So I think it's more like service. It's more service than innovation. I agree that some industries are different, especially if I agree that some industries are different and you might need to like figure out what innovation means in that industry. But I would say most of the time, just relentlessly focusing on your customer is enough to like help you know what to do and why you're doing it. Yeah.
Fascinating. And so in terms of new products, sort of in terms of the next thing, it's just, this is what the customers are shouting about. This is their biggest.
Exactly. Like, do you think Paystack is confused about what we need to build? Like, if you were the CEO of Paystack, like, there's no confusion because you have customers, your customers. They're telling you every day, like, please help us with this. Let's do this. Why is this not working? Why is this, So it gives you a lot of clarity. I guess the hardest part might be prioritization, to say, you know what, I have 10 customers and 10 of them are asking for like 10 different things. Which one do I start with? And I guess that's another conversation around prioritization, but I guess ultimately, yeah, it's not a big problem. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's a question about regulatory. Have you guys had real regulatory challenges? I mean, it's a regulated everything.
Of course not. Yeah.
So big regulatory challenges you've had, how you've navigated them,
Yeah. So without like, so I would say another thing is that, again, payments is a very good industry because most part of it is like standardized. And it's also, the standards are very global. So except for newer things like crypto, where like each country is now trying to figure out what it means for them. For payments, for merchant acquiring, the standards are very global and are not subject to a lot of local interpretation. So I would say that has been very helpful for us. And thankfully, I think things have worked out for us there. So I think that's the first part. So we haven't really had like any out of the blue problem. I think most of our problems come from where we're moving too fast, or we're trying to do something. We said yes to one thing, but it has created another problem somewhere else. And we're like, oh wow, we didn't remember to like think about this deeply. But I think we've now gotten to that point now. We're now more proactive. So again, just to rearticulate that, I think in the early days, we started from like an engineering and product-led company and just wanted to build stuff, like and build and go fast. But increasingly started saying that, like compliance is part of the business, and figuring out how to build and scale that team in a way where as we're now building, we're already building compliance inside the product, like as I'm thinking about how to build it, you're already thinking about it, even covering all the compliance loopholes and all that. So so I think just to summarize, early days we struggled with compliance, not from we were not obedient, but we were just moving faster than we could, than we should. But now I think we've figured that out now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. An interesting challenge here. What's been the lowest point at Paystack?
Yeah,
good question, because you guys look like it's been up. So for
okay, there are multiple parts of my own. I would say it's the lowest point, but there was someone that just like had a payment at Paystack. I don't know what happened to them, and they had like a dispute with one of our merchants, and then they went to report to EFCC or something like that. I told this story one time where someone from my office just texted me and said there are 2 FT guys waiting for you at the reception. I'm like, yeah. But thankfully, I was not in town. So I was like, okay, I'm not in town. I mean, I think.
Would you hold Ezra? I mean,
the person was very good. She was very good at it. She was the person that blocked, and so she went to talk to them, and then eventually we figured it out. But so half of my problems are just like dealing with disputes that have nothing to do with us. Literally have nothing to do with us. And just it getting escalated to like people, and then people asking questions and all that. So I think those are some very low lights. So I've actually had to go to the EFCC office once to just go explain. Again, that issue had nothing to do with us. So I feel like I think that's not why I started Paystack. I just want to work. I just want to send emails. I want to send emails. I want to go on Slack. Not necessarily to be going to the FCC.
Let me ask you a question. So, from a stakeholder management perspective, and thinking about the regulators as a core stakeholder, thinking about government as a core stakeholder. I mean, a traditional company, even something like Nigerian breweries, which you were, or Heineken looked at, would have, liaison for government affairs or somebody like that. How do you guys manage kind of regulatory? Is it ad hoc? Is it you driving it? Or have you guys had to hire somebody and just say, okay, your job is to sit in Abuja and keep, the regulators sweet?
No. So I think what's scaling now, but again, like I said, which regulator? There are multiple regulators. You plan for EFCC, you plan for exactly, and the problems come in different. Exactly. Yeah. So I think we've been as proactive as we can, and we're still trying to like continue to improve our engagements. But the truth is that there's just so much happening, and when you're growing, when you're starting, the problems you didn't think about that will just show up. So I think if the direct answer, do we have someone in Abuja that's like just talking to everybody? The answer is not yet, but And I just wanted to close that by saying, and that's the hardest part about building a company, because if you think about your team, you can start having ideas and just start bringing people together. Okay, we need somebody to do this. We need somebody to do this. But if you do that, you're going to have too many people. It's just going to be chaotic, So it is also important to build that team organically, to build that team like intentionally, to make sure that you have the right people with the right intentions, people with the right ambitions, people that want the same thing as you, people that, and that is so hard. That is so hard. People that you want to wake up every morning and go to work with, people that you want to go to battle with, So there's so many things to consider than just saying, okay, I need somebody to do this, go and do this. No, it's so hard. Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think that's really critical. It's a really interesting aspect that I think people underestimate in terms of how to build a company, is like how essential it is to have people who understand the mission and can think and act on their own and aren't just waiting for you to tell them, move that one there,
Exactly.
I've got an interesting question from Waris Sanusi around competition. And I've got variations of this question, So it's like, since Paystack started, there are a bunch of other startups doing very, very similar things. What's your position on competition? How have you? And then, there's a name that comes up constantly if you're talking about Paystack, which is Flutterwave. So how do you think about your roles within the industry? Like, what you do, vis-a-vis what they do. How do you think about competition?
So the first thing is that thankfully, it is not like the US elections. It's not it's not two people versus themselves and one winner, and then the other person has to wait for 4 years. No, that's not what it is, thankfully. So I think from everything I've said today, you can imagine that, like, the reason I'm building Paystack, like, I know what I'm doing. What we're trying to do. And that has nothing to do with what any other person is trying to do. So I think the first way we think about competition is that we don't necessarily think about it, because if for anything, that's not why we're here. Like, we're trying to do our work, and we're trying to just solve a problem. I'm trying to personally create a future that I want to see. And if you think about that future, like, that has nothing to do with somebody else. If somebody else does the same thing, that's all well and good. Actually, maybe it helps me that I don't have to do that. I can pick something else. So we're really super focused on what we're trying to do. I consider myself as a craftsman. And if you think of an artist, like maybe like a painter or something, like it doesn't matter what someone else is painting, just paint on your own canvas, literally. And so that focus has been very helpful for us and for me, where we're just like doing our work. I like that there are multiple people in the market. I think that also creates it creates in two ways. On one side, it creates some awareness on the customer side, because there are actually people that come to us because somebody else went to sell to them and they're like, okay, you know what, let's explore everybody in the industry. So I like that part of it. Even on our own side, to just knowing that you don't have all the time, so it also creates like a sense of urgency to know that, you know what, there's work to be done, you can do it. And maybe sometimes it creates some sense of like, you know what, they don't have to it. If they can do it, then you can also do it, So those are the parts where it like it works. And if you can see, those things are all positive, If there are any negative parts, which is just like people trying to compare you and all that. In the early days, I used to be upset, like, this is cheapening my craft, like, no, that's not why I'm here. Like, why do you assume that I'm doing this because I'm battling with someone else? Or why do you think my work, I wake up in the morning because I want to be better than somebody else? No, like, no, please, that's not why I'm here. Like, I have real problems in front of me that I should solve, that I must solve. So I think the framework for competition is that it's not a finite battle. It's not a battle that, oh, we've won. And that's the good thing. I spoke to Mitchell at InterSwitch, and his advice around competition was actually very good. It was like, competition won't die like that. So it's a battle it's not a battle that you're just going to come and say, I have won. And imagine fighting a battle that you won't like win, in quotes. Like, it's just too stressful, So it's really just calm down. It's infinite. Like, there's no point at which that you have won, in quotes. Like, you might win on one side, they're winning on another side. So it's just, that's not why you're here. Focus your energy on like your mission, on your people, on your happiness. Me, I just want to be happy. I just want to like do good work, and I think we'll be fine. Yeah. So, okay. But for customers that are trying to choose, which is where I can empathize. Like, you have two options, and you're asking like, what option should I choose? The good and the bad part is that, I'll start with the bad. The bad part is that there's no checklist. It's not like a checklist of features where you're like, oh, this person has this person doesn't have this. That's not how it works. It's like an experience. It's like a trust. It's like, who can I trust to like help me start and scale my business? And in issues of trust like that, it will come from like, who have I heard? What recommendations do I have? Whose vibe do I like? So there are multiple parts, and that depends on who you are, where you are coming from, and what kind of things you're trying to do. But I can assure you that Paystack was built for you. Paystack was built to help you. So I'm here for you. So yeah.
Okay, fantastic. There's something I need to dig into, which is we need to talk about the exit, and so we need to talk about the road to that. So I guess the first question there is, and I know that Stripe invested in the previous round, but talk us through sort of after the YC investment. Actually, let me take it a little bit. So after the YC investment, you got that was your seed round.
Yeah.
Basically. And when you had investors in Nigeria, were they coming into the same round or subsequent round?
Yeah. No, so the YC was like pre-seed, the way YC works, which is a very good model. Just get people, and then 3 months later, they can have a demo day and they can raise a proper round. So,
okay. So sorry, Shola, I'm going to interrupt you quite a bit here. Just
because that's fine.
There are people in this that know what YC is, and
yes,
people who've never actually heard of YC. So YC is Y Combinator. It's an incubator in America, Silicon Valley, one of the most famous and important ones globally. Paystack got in there very early, the first Nigerian startup in there, and kind of opened the doors. Now there's 20 this year. So Paystack at the time took 7% of your company for 150K or 250K?
120K.
120K. So $120,000 They take 7% of your company, but then you do demo day and they put you in front of a lot of very important investors.
Exactly.
And those guys can put real money into your company.
Exactly.
So at demo day, how much did you guys raise? And
that's when we announced the 1.3 million, and from like people like Tencent, and locally, a lot of people locally. So Ventures Platform, Maya Ingressive, Olumide, and just a lot of people that, and again, people, it's easy to look back now and say, you know what, people supported Paystack. But in 2016, like, Paystack didn't really stand a chance like that, you know, like we were just two young, clueless guys, you know, and we just came and like, okay, we want to do this. So, yeah.
What do you think made a difference from two young guys just trying their luck with something that they think is a problem? What made that difference? Because so Tech About, we covered startups. We have covered a lot of fantastic ideas. And I mean, one of the things I say is you go to our website and you look, and it's kind of a graveyard of like great intentions, great ideas, and a very small percentage of like really great companies that have come out and done great things. So from your perspective, what makes it different?
I wish I knew, but I think there are multiple parts to it. I think ultimately, I think we were lucky with the team. Like, we found the right people to join the journey, and I think I would say that's the first thing that like has made the difference for me, because with another team, something more might have changed. In fact, I was telling my team, and I was talking about Ezra, like, a lot of companies die because the co-founders just fight, literally. So Paystack could have just died if Ezra and I had like a fight, you know, and he slapped me, and I'm like, yo, I can't slap you back, I'm going, you know. So like, it can be as small as that, you know. So I think just being very lucky with the team has been the first part of it. The second part of it is just like the overwhelming support from the ecosystem, you know, like in different parts, like even in banks, you know, I made this joke, not even a joke, like the way we got into Zenith Bank was through an account officer. So it's not like I know MDs of anywhere. Shout out to Uzoma Dozie. That's like the first MD that I know that from a bank and it was the one that reached out to me, you know. So, but other than that, we like, it's just people that are like talking to people to talk to people about us. So I think that advocacy was very helpful, because there's no way we could have reached everybody. There's no way we could have done this if people didn't like talk to the people they could talk to. So I think that's the second part. And then the third part, if there's anything we did on our side, was just like a very clear focus, you know, like very early learned that this was going to be a long journey. This is going to take 7 years or more, and you're going to have to improve every day. So this is not about trying to like just do something quickly and all that. So we started with a very long view to this, and we were ready to do the work. Like, for me, success would not have been, oh, we raised money, oh, we got acquired, no, we did this. No, like, those were not the things I was chasing. Like, success for me was going to be, you know what, like, anybody can now accept payments from anywhere, you know, like, that would have been amazing. Oh, people now have the tools they need to start their businesses because we built it, you know. And so, yeah, and I think all that coming together, I would say, made some difference. And also maybe the investors we got, to be honest, because think about people that just give you money. Even Stripe, the Series A we did, I know you're going to get there, but it was literally like a credit alert without like, there was no board seats, there was no, there was nothing like that. So it's like just a bunch of people that trust us and say, you know what, just take this and don't worry about it. You know, like, people I've never met. Like, I met Kola, you know, after one meeting, you send someone money, you're not asking about where's my money, how is the value of it, like, no pressure, you know, like, just people supporting you and you knowing that, you know what, they've given you the space to like do your work, you know. So I think it all worked out. Yeah.
Okay. So that first round, you got Tencent. Who else did you get in? And so the local investors, but Tencent for the other.
Comcast Ventures was global there. Yeah, but it was 44 people, just to be clear.
44 people. Oh wow.
Yes, yes, yes.
So you raised
a lot of people.
1.2, 1.3 M, and you got onto the road. How involved were your investors? You know, did they give you the money and say go away? I know you've talked about in Nigeria, a lot of people speaking for you in rooms that you weren't in. So your angel investors were helpful.
Yes, yes. Passively helpful, which is what I want. Like, don't come and build the company for me, please. No, just be passively helpful. Like,
What does passively helpful look like?
It means like just do the things that you want to do without like dragging me into it. Just help me, like do things, figure out ways to support me without necessarily like dragging me or distracting me. Because the people that want to help you, but they're distracting you, you know, I'm like, I don't need your help now. Wait, you know, and all that. So I think figuring out and finding those bunch of people that can say, you know what, we're here for you. If you need anything, this is how you reach us. If we find any opportunities, we'll send them your way. But we're not going to like be stressing your life, you know. I think that was very good. Yeah.
And so, how about your international investors? So,
it's almost the same thing. It's almost the same thing. Like I ask for what I want. If they can help, they help. If they can't help, they look for someone that can help me. That can help. You know. So like it's just, and that's what YC actually started. Even YC, you know, like people think YC is like a school where you just go and the teacher teaching you. No, I was shocked too. It's just they just say, you know what, you can book office hours if you need anything. Somebody is there for you, but nobody's telling you what to do. Nobody is like, it's just like having access to people. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you did that round. You guys got building. You know, picked up some traction. You went from $250 a month to what number?
to hundreds of millions, to hundreds of millions of dollars a month.
Okay. Somebody is asking for traction today. So how much do you process?
Yeah, that's what I say. Just say hundreds of millions of dollars in a month.
Yeah. Refuse to tell us the number. Hundreds of millions. Okay. No, that's I mean, I've seen some of those charts, and so I know that the traction is real. I mean, the traction is serious. So Stripe, when did Stripe come into the conversation? You know, you guys have been calling yourself the Stripe of Africa. Who is calling our name?
Exactly. No, I again, just on the passively helpful side, like the number of people that have told me, you know, you can't talk to Stripe, let's introduce Stripe. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to tell Stripe, you know, but eventually, like, I got introduced to like Patrick, the CEO, maybe in 2018. And he was like, okay, you know what, just anytime you want, just come to Stripe, come have lunch. So I just went, we had lunch. Of course, I showed them Paystack. Like, yo, this is better. So we had the good conversation. I asked a lot of questions because for me, I just wanted to learn as much as I could learn. So I didn't even talk, to be honest, apart from just like showing a very short demo. I didn't tell him anything, literally. It was just me asking questions, a lot of questions. And then just reached out like the next day and said, you know what, do you want Stripe to invest in Paystack? I was like, yeah, okay, now let's do it. And that was very helpful because I had always just tried to not get into a position where like I'm chasing investors and I'm trying to like do a round because there was just so much to do. So getting to that point where like an investor will like ask me that's always what I wanted. And
we enter.
Exactly. And then I can make the decision to say yes or no. So that was very helpful. And so we went, it was a very short process. There was no long thing, not a lot. Went back to San Francisco.
Okay.
Because Visa got involved also. So it was a very quick one.
Fantastic.
And since then they've just been very supportive. So it's like, and that's why the exit is like a natural, it's a natural evolution because like we've worked together, they've supported us. It wasn't as if, oh, we're like, Paystack is for sale, come and buy Paystack. No, it was just like a lot of conversations, a lot of trust, a lot of like, okay, we're trying to achieve our mission. This is what we're trying to do. How can we get there faster? Who can help us get there faster? You know, who has shown that they can help us? Who has proven? Who has like, you know? So it's just a lot of conversations getting here.
Fair enough. And I think I know the answer to this, but let me ask for the sake of the audience. I've heard people say, you guys are growing so fast, you guys are doing so well. Like, how far could you have pushed this if you just kept going? Why now?
Yeah, since you know the answer, maybe you should answer.
No, it's not my story.
Yeah. No. I think that's a very good question. But I think, again, if you look at it from everything I've said, like, this isn't about me. This isn't about like me specifically. It's about like, what are we trying to do and how can we get there? So we thought that, and we still think that like this is the right partner to take us to the next level. This is the right way Paystack will deliver the promise of making trade work within Africa, across Africa, like between Africa and the rest of the world. Like just giving the size of what we want to do, it just makes sense to like work with this partner. Of course, when you have two options, and that's what I tell people, like if you have two good options, like both of them are good. So of course, any option will work. So I think we're also lucky to be at a place where any option we chose would have been a good option and it would be fine anyways. So so I would just say that we had good options. It was a good thing. I do trust this is the partner that we've worked with for the last 2 years. Like this is not just someone we just met or someone we have like, oh, well, we think like they will help us. No, this is someone that has supported us with a lot of things over the last 2 years. And we're convinced that this is amazingly good for merchants. Like if you're a Paystack merchant, like this is literally perfect for you because you now have a Paystack that has access to all the resources they can possibly have access to. I have access to all the knowledge they can possibly have access to, but still be as independent as possible. Like it's still Paystack, it's still Shola making the calls, it's still like, oh, maybe not just Shola making the calls, but it's still like, exactly, but I'm still the CEO. Like there's still a future to be built. There's still merchants to be supported. There's still people to be hired. And so it's still like, just from that lens, it is an amazing thing. And then from the ecosystem lens also, if you think about what this means for, again, think about the people that invested in Paystack 4 years ago, how much they had to believe that this was going to happen. Like, I wouldn't have invested in Paystack 4 years ago. Literally, I'm sorry. But now this is something that shows that people can build something valuable. People can appreciate value. Like you just need to focus. And also I like the idea of like different ways to do things, because one of the problems we have in a small ecosystem is that everybody's just going to follow one path. Yeah. And if we all follow one path, it will be bad. So we need more people. We need more people trying out different things. People try your own, I try my own, you try your own, so that the options are like plenty. And then people can have different paths ahead of them. Yes. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's really important. I think, and as a signal for the market, as somebody covering the ecosystem, for us, it's definitely super important. Like for our new investors to see that it's possible to build this thing, for new entrepreneurs to see that it's possible to get it right and actually take it all the way to exit. I think and for a lot of people in the audience, I think some of the big lessons for me, from this conversation and from watching Paystack, are about finding the right problem, finding a problem that's big enough, that's important enough, that people want to support you because you are solving. I think a really, really big part of that, and you've emphasized it a lot, is you guys were solving a problem where everybody was like, yes, please, please, please. If you can solve that problem, you will help me. So people are willing to advocate and to push and to support and to help make it happen, being really, really relentlessly focused on that problem. And then finding the right investors, finding the right support. Let me jump into a question. Stephen Ayeni. So he asked about sort of like, did you sell too early? We've already addressed that. So he says, what are the key actionable targets, goals that Paystack needs to achieve to be the Stripe of Africa? So like, yeah. What's next? I guess that's the key question.
Okay, yeah. So if you ask me what next, I will say that maybe three things we're trying to do next. I think the first one is just continuing to like rapidly expand across the continent.
Okay. How many countries are you
in? Now we're in 3, but figure out how to, and South Africa.
Okay.
And figure out how to like do more of that in a way that helps our customers. So if you're a Nigerian merchant, now you have access to more markets and you can like scale your business faster across the continent. I think that's the very first part. The second part is building more software and services for our customers. So we've just like launched Paystack Commerce, which is a lot of tooling for people that are creating stuff and selling online. We're going to do more of that. There's going to be more tools that we're going to build to support our customers. And then the third part is just like a relentless focus on reliability. Like Paystack, payments must work. Like it should work 100% of the time, every time. And reliability is so hard because my example for that is like, if you were 99%, if you're doing 10 million transactions and you were 99% reliable, like you're going to fail 100,000 times. But if you keep your 99% reliability and you start doing 20 million, then you're going to fail 200,000 times. So it's not enough to keep your reliability. You have to get better every time as you get bigger. And that is a very, very, very strong challenge, and we're going to be super focused on making sure that Paystack gets better across everything, across all the interactions you have with us. So just rapidly expanding, building tools and services for customers, and like being more and more reliable.
Gotcha. Fantastic. What keeps you up at night? What are the things you worry about?
Okay, that's a better thing. I'm just trying to think about the things that keep me up. I don't say I worry is like a strong word, but I think the first part of it is just like, which is still talent. It's just like finding the people that can really help us achieve our mission, So I think just like finding the right talent is something that helps, like that I'm always thinking about. And the second part of it, which is tied to talent, is A, you're finding them, but secondly, how are you engaging with talent? How are you helping people do their best work? How are you helping? Because a lot, and I talked about it earlier, a lot of my work is begging people like, oh, come and work for Paystack, come and work with Paystack, and all that. So after you beg someone to come and work for your company, it doesn't stop there. It actually starts there because someone is giving you all their future ambitions and they're putting it in your trust, and you now have to figure out how to help these people create an environment where they can be fulfilled, where they can be successful, where they can like do great work, where they can be happy, where the sacrifice can be worth it. Because sometimes like there's a lot of focus on the founders and like the founder is like taking a lot of glory and everywhere. But the truth is that as I'm talking now, this is 1.5 hours that somebody is actually doing more to just make Paystack work, So
you're telling Tech About's very, very important audience about Paystack. It's his work. It matters.
Which is the point I'm trying to make, to say that it has to be, you have to figure out how to build that machine that allows everybody play their part well, so that I can play my part and be confident that somebody else is playing their part and they're doing a good job at it, So I think and that's something that I don't have experience at. Like I've never been the CEO of a 120-man company. So there's no experience there, So it's something that I have to constantly be intentional about and constantly think about and like figure out. And I'm saying 120 now, but next month now is now 125. I'm just like, oh, wow. Very good. So yes.
Let me ask you, what percentage of your time would you say you spend on people management, recruiting?
Yeah. I think there are 3 things I spend most of my time on. There's people, there's partnerships, and there's product. I would say each of those will probably take maybe about 25%. And then the last 25% is for Tech About.
I saw it. I wish that were true. Actually, no. I think you should spend the rest of your energy building the company. We'll take the occasional conversation together. Okay. There's a really great question here. I'm not sure who said it, but it's basically, what are the great companies that someone still needs to build? Like in Nigeria. So one of the things I love about Paystack is, like you said, it wasn't innovative. You're solving a very obvious problem with an existing, like somebody has done this thing somewhere else. So when you look at the landscape, what else strikes you like somebody needs to fix that problem tomorrow? Somebody needs to build that thing right now.
I think someone needs to rebuild nine posts. I don't know, is it called nine posts? Something like that. Someone needs to rebuild.
I mean, but that's a heavy lift. That's a heavy lift.
Yes.
But that one is not bits and bytes. It's not computer.
Yeah.
On ground.
Yeah. I don't know. Someone needs to rebuild the concept of post offices. So I think a lot of my teams are around like, what should exist that doesn't exist? What should happen that doesn't happen? And I think a lot of people are building stuff, so I used to be worried about like food, just like I just want good food, but I like what Eden is doing there now. And I think they've done amazingly well, just like figuring out how to like scale that. So I think people are doing amazing things, but if you ask me one specific problem that someone should just rebuild, it's just rebuild the post office for us. I think, yeah.
Why do you think?
Of course, in a digital way, it's just like, think about if I'm on this call now, for example, and I have a package, somebody's going to call my phone. I'm like, okay, your package is outside. No, I don't want to do that. I want someone to just deliver my package without stressing me passively, the way it works elsewhere, without like, and like reliability, you can just order, you can put your address somewhere, and you can get it, you can send something to someone, you can track it, you can know when it's been delivered, and this can happen across the world, you don't have to worry. So there's just a lot that needs to happen on that logistics side so that things can move, and just not just within Nigeria, again, just across the continent, and everywhere.
Gotcha. I think that's a really interesting one. So just jumping, someone's asking, sort of, how do you see remittances and payments evolving around the continent in the near future? I think those are two very different things, but two different.
I think there's going to continue to be a lot of fragmentation in payments and maybe remittances. Like, there's just going to be new ways of doing things, like every time, which is good, like more things, more options, more ways. On the payment side, though, then someone needs to figure out how to like support all that complicated fragmentation, So I think when I think of the next 5 years, like, it's not like there's just not going to be one way people pay. There are going to be multiple ways people pay. And on the merchant side, somebody will have to figure out how to like reduce that and abstract that for merchants. So merchants don't need to like worry about all the new fragmented ways that people are paying. So I think that's one thing I see. I also think the lines will be blurred. So the way I can pick up my phone today, I think telcos have figured it out. I can pick up my phone today, I can call a number in the US or the UK or even South Africa, and it will ring and they'll pick it up, and it's just working. I think payments and remittances will work that way, where you can just pick up your phone, you can send money to somebody, and they will get it. And you don't have to ask any question. You don't have to like, the constraints, there won't be hard constraints because people have thought about all the constraints and figured it out. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think that's fantastic. So we're coming kind of pretty close to the end of this, but let's see if we can sort of do a couple more questions. Let me ask you something a little bit personal. I mean, are you investing in the ecosystem? Do you invest?
Yes and no. I think I spend a lot of my time. So when we talk about that last 25%, I spend a lot of time talking to founders, a lot of time, like at least every week, I'm talking to like a founder and just like either answering questions or sharing my experience. And so I think it is important for me to continue to just like be able to support multiple founders without necessarily choosing winners, because we talked about competition already. Like if I start, like we said, we want to support UPS, or like if I pick one founder and invest in one founder, like that reduces my ability to support his competitor if he needs my help, So I think in the short term, I still see myself as someone that founders can like reach out to, and I want to be able to support them without any vested interest, without anything. So I think that's the first part. That said, I do have relationships with a lot of investors. Thankfully, I have 44 investors. I have like YC, I have all that. So I'm also able to like connect founders to like people that would like invest in them, and figure it out. So I think in the short term, I don't necessarily want to be the person that is like choosing winners. Like investment is hard. Usually it's hard. And I also want to focus on Paystack. There's been a lot of work to be done. So I would say that I love supporting founders, and I will continue to support founders, but not necessarily with my small change. So.
Gotcha. I guess the reason I asked that was sort of your sense of where we go from here. So you guys were a big exit. I know we've been waiting for the InterSwitch listing to happen for a while. So I'm curious as to where you see the industry going. Are there things? You just mentioned startups that you mentioned Eden, which you're excited about their work. Are there startups you're excited about? Are there efforts broadly that you're excited about? Like, are you excited about the state of the industry?
Yeah. No, I'm extremely excited that there's so many people building stuff, and I have the benefit of hindsight, because I remember how I was 5 years ago, and it was hard for anybody to be excited about me. Like if I told someone I was building payments, I was like, "Are you high? Why are you building payments?" So I think that 5 years later, I see a lot more people building amazing things, like when I think of the progress that will happen over the next 5 years, like I can already see the people building it. So the good thing or the bad thing about building is that it's not what it looks like today. Like that's not how you measure it. How you measure it is like, what does this look like over the next 3 to 5 years, And I think the foundation and the people and the energy and the ambitions that we're seeing around all points to the fact that there's so many people doing great work.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much for joining us today. I think I'm going to pull this to a close. It's been a really interesting conversation. We're going to free you to go back.
Exactly.
The tech about time is done. There's still a lot of questions, actually over 100 questions, but if we attempted to answer that, then Shola wouldn't be able to push Paystack any further this week. So we are going to let him go, but we do want to thank you all for coming. Muyiwa is putting a survey in the comments, so please take some time and answer it. We'd love to get your thoughts on this session and how we do better next time. Shola, thank you so very much for coming today.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks so much.
For those of you that know TechAbout, I love TechAbout. We'll be launching our newsletter. It's going to be about midweek next week. I think next Wednesday is when it relaunches. TechAbout Daily has been sort of one of the most important sort of products covering technology on a daily basis. It comes into your inbox at 7 a.m. If you're not subscribed, subscribe for it, but look out for it next week because we're quite excited about sort of this next iteration and what it is that it says. Shola, we don't have Radar. Radar isn't anymore the way it was when you guys were starting, but please tell your people to subscribe to the newsletter and like keep up with what we're doing. But thanks everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
UK Nigeria Tech Hub for powering this and helping us put together. Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shola. Thank you. It's very